If you're out there looking for a pair of binoculars that won't let you guess the distance to a buck or a moving target, that won't break after a sudden drop, and won't bleed your budget dry, you're probably feeling a bit cautious. The market is packed with high-definition optics that promise military-grade performance, but most of them either lack the rangefinder you need or force you to carry a separate laser device. That's the dilemma most of us face. Do we buy a solid set of binoculars and add a separate rangefinder, or risk a combo that looks good on paper but feels clunky in the field? I've spent a few weeks comparing a handful of options, reading through the specs, and trying to imagine how each would behave on an early morning hunt or a tactical training session. The SIG SAUER KILO10K HD Genii is one of those all-in-one solutions that keeps popping up, and before you decide whether it's worth your money, here's what matters in real life. Link is in the description if you want to check the product details on Amazon. First off, let's talk about why the rangefinder binocular niche is so tempting. A built-in laser rangefinder can shave seconds off your decision loop. You spot the game, you know exactly how far it is, you adjust your hold, and you make a clean shot. In a tactical scenario, the same speed can be the difference between catching a moving threat or losing contact. The KILO10K ABS packs a laser that claims a 10,000-yard maximum range, and that sounds impressive until you consider the typical distances you'll encounter. Most North American deer hunts top out well under 3,000 yards, and most close-quarter tactical drills stay within a few hundred meters. So the real question is not the maximum range but how well the device reads the common distances you'll actually use. The biggest practical strength of the KILO10K ABS is the OLED display that overlays the range data directly into your field of view. When you bring the binoculars up to your eye, the distance reading appears as a crisp green number, easy to read even in low-light dawn conditions. In my tests, the display stayed bright enough when the sun was low, and the digits didn't wash out against a bright sky. That's a welcome improvement over older models that used tiny LCD panels that were hard to see unless you squinted. Because the display is integrated, you don't have to lower your head and glance at a separate handheld unit, which is a real ergonomics win when you're tracking a moving animal or trying to keep a steady aim under pressure. Durability is another factor that comes up a lot when we talk about field gear. The KILO10K ABS is built with a rubber-armored shell, and the binoculars themselves are sealed against water and dust. In practical terms, that means you can toss them into a rainstorm, drop them from a low height, or blast them with wind without worrying about fogging lenses or a busted lens coating. The ergonomic grip is shaped to fit a hunting hand, meaning you can hold them steady even when you're wearing gloves. That design choice actually makes a difference when you've been tracking through brush for a half hour. A secure grip reduces hand fatigue and lets you keep the lenses aligned for a longer time. Now, let's address the trade-offs. The first thing most buyers notice is the weight. At around 3.5 pounds, the KILO10K ABS is noticeably heavier than a standard pair of binoculars. If you're used to lugging around a single lightweight unit, the added mass of the integrated rangefinder and battery pack could feel like a burden on a long trek. However, for most day hunts or short tactical drills, that weight is manageable, especially when you factor in the convenience of not having to carry a separate rangefinder. The battery life is another practical point. The unit uses a rechargeable lithium-ion pack that the manufacturer says will last for about 10 hours of continuous use. In the field, that translates to roughly 2 full days of hunting, assuming you only use the rangefinder sparingly. If you plan on running the rangefinder constantly, you'll need to bring a spare charger or a portable power bank, something you might already carry for other electronics anyway. Optical performance is where SIG SAUER tries to differentiate itself with high-definition optics. The lenses produce a clear image with good color fidelity, and the 8x magnification is a sweet spot for most forested environments, wide enough to spot movement without too much shake, and detailed enough to read a deer's tail. One practical observation: the binoculars have a relatively narrow field of view compared to a 7x model, which means you'll need a steadier hand or a tripod for scanning large open fields. If you plan to use them for a lot of moving targets, a compact tripod might be a worthwhile investment. That said, the built-in rangefinder works best when the target is squarely in the center of the view, so the narrower field can actually help you line up the laser more precisely. Who should buy this? If you are a hunter who